Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 21 of the Rambler Podcast, where we are passionate about sharing what makes Cathedral Prep the standard of excellence. Today on the podcast, we are thrilled to have Father Mike DeMartinis as a guest. Father Mike was born in the summer of '69 and grew up in Hermitage, Pennsylvania, where he went to Hickory High School and graduated from there in 1987. After that, he entered St. Mark College Seminary in his junior year of college and graduated from Gannon in 1992 with a Bachelor of Arts degree in Social Studies. He then attended Christ the King Seminary in East Aurora, New York, and earned his Master of Divinity degree. He was ordained a priest for the Diocese of Erie on April 25, 1997. His assignments have included Our Lady of Peace, Blessed Sacrament, Mount Calvary, and is currently the pastor of St. Patrick Church here in Erie. He was active in the Erie Playhouse for many years and started the theater program here at Cathedral Prep in 2005, when he was also serving as the campus minister, freshman guidance counselor, and theology teacher. He has taught at both Prep and Villa Maria Academy full-time for the past several years. He has been the director of the theater arts since 2005 and currently teaches freshman theology and acting and stagecraft. He started the Teen Mass of Blessed Sacrament almost 19 years ago in the fall of 2004 and continues to minister to and with teens, youth, and college students from the Erie area every Sunday night at 7:30 p.m. His parents still live in Hermitage, and his brother, sister-in-law, and twin nephews live in Fort Myers, Florida, where he visits several times a year. He runs the Prep Mission Club and has been on over 50 foreign and domestic mission trips, including taking Prep and Villa students to India, Tanzania, Kenya, and the Dominican Republic, New York City, Chicago, Illinois, and the Appalachian, Kentucky. So all that to say, Father Mike, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me today. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, it's absolutely. I love reading through the bios and hearing all the cool and fun stuff you've been able to do.
My life has not been boring.
I would say
I
so.
would never ever say that I'm ever bored. You know, I'm blessed.
And I would say, we go way back to Blessed Sacrament
I know.
days.
You were just a little kid.
Yeah, fun times. And then most recently, you married my sister and her husband Connor Colpoys, and it's just fun to be having known you for so many years and still stay connected. Obviously now me working here and then our family still too.
No,
so
I love it.
Yeah. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you just as we start to get into this podcast is, when did you know that you had this calling on your life to become a priest?
So when I was a really little kid, like 10, I mean, so young, I had an authentic relationship with Jesus. I really did. I enjoyed going to church. I was a CCD student because I was a public school kid. But we always attended either Mass or church in other places. Like, we didn't always go to a Catholic church. My parents we went around and explored other different Christian churches when I was growing up. But we always went somewhere. And, throughout my teenage years, I got more involved in my church. And by the time I was graduating from high school, I was a lector. I was going to be a Eucharistic minister that fall of my freshman year of college. I was confirmation retreat giver. I sang in the Notre Dame folk group. Basically, I did everything except be a priest at that point. Right. I did everything else at the church. And about maybe the end of my freshman year of college, I started just having these feelings that I didn't know where they were coming from. But, I think it must be, I would say, similar to falling in love, that you constantly thinking of this idea. And for a while, I wasn't sure if I could picture myself being a priest, but then eventually that vision kind of got clearer, and I went to Kentucky on my very first missionary trip with this kind of secret question in my heart that if God was calling me to serve His people, this would be a good way to kind of figure out if that was really real. And when I was there on that mission, and no one knew that was on my heart, 4 separate people over the course of 3 or 4 days asked me if I had ever considered becoming a priest. So I thought, I mean, if you're asking for a sign, the signs are that clear, so I came home and I entered the seminary. So, and then you really don't make the decision to become a priest right away. You make the decision to enter into the seminary, and then you make your decision along the way as it gets clearer and closer. So you make that choice when you are within your last year or so of the seminary. So it's a long process. I was in the seminary for 7.5 years.
Wow.
Or 6.5 years, sorry.
6.5
years.
Sure, and it's cool to see, as we joked reading your bio, the many different things you're doing, but all serving God's people through the different callings that you have. As you mentioned, 3 different types of... Yeah.
I've been actually really lucky. Looking back, I have been able to use all the things that God has given me, all my strengths, all my gifts. I've been able to weave those together into this, so it's a blessing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been a blessing. And I don't want to lose any of those facets of what I get to do, because I get to shift gears 6 or 7 times a day,
right,
which for me is the best thing ever. No 2 days ever look the same, ever. Right. So I never know where I'm going to be next, but it's okay, because it's kind of an adventure that way.
Anyone who's listening that knows you knows that you are in the exact spot that God has placed you to be.
Thanks.
With your gifts and talents that you have and serving the way you do. Can you talk to us about the teen mass? How did that get started? What has it grown into today?
Yeah, I was really lucky at Our Lady of Peace to have the largest youth group in the diocese. For the 6 years that I was the parochial vicar there, that was my first assignment. I had 60 to 70 kids coming every Wednesday night.
Wow.
Yeah, we had a full calendar of events every month, and when I was moved, because my time was maxed out. You can't stay forever as a parochial vicar. You have 6 years maximum. They moved me right down. They asked me where I wanted to go, gave me 4 choices, and I chose Blessed Sacrament, which is right down the road, not even a mile and a half away.
Yeah.
And when I got there, immediately people started asking me, when are you going to start a youth group here? When are you going to start a youth group here? Well, it doesn't happen overnight. So within the first 6 months or so, I was approached by many young people, teenagers. And by the following fall, 2004, we had this idea that we wanted to start something kind of like, it's modeled after the Life Teen Masses that we don't have in our diocese.
Okay.
With a rockin' band and the kids doing everything that they can do.
Right.
And we got together we sent a letter out to every high school student who went to Blessed Sacrament.
Yeah.
And their parents. And we invited them to a meeting, and we pitched it, and they bit, and it's been going ever since.
Wow.
So it'll be in the middle of October, we'll be going there 19 straight years, every Sunday, all year long. Like never.
It doesn't stop during the school year, things like that.
Doesn't stop at all in the summer. And that's, I think, the consistency and the commitment of the people who run it with me are the factors of why it's been so successful. You have to just be faithful to it. You cannot let up. And think of how many things last that long. 19 years is a very long time for a program to last.
Yes.
And I was there last night at 7:30.
That's awesome.
I mean, it's changed over the years. It's gotten shorter over the years.
Sure.
I mean, reading the signs of the times and the different population that we have, it's smaller. We used to get like 500 people every Sunday night. We're more at the 250, 300 maybe now because of the pandemic. The pandemic took everything down.
Right.
Everything is smaller across the board.
Yeah.
In every part of our lives.
Correct.
But I wanted to keep going.
Yeah.
I definitely wanted to keep going. It's the greatest thing ever.
And I think we're getting momentum out of COVID now, out of the pandemic, where people are excited about going out, doing things, looking past all that. So enough said on that, but now it's time to continue to grow this.
Yeah.
And it's awesome to hear you're excited about it.
I guess one of the things that I would say, I want to throw out there is let us all encourage our young people to go somewhere to church, for sure, but to get involved, because this generation is a generation that is reluctant to get involved in things. That's just their generational traits.
Yeah.
Like our generations have traits. This one is reluctance to join things and to commit to things. And so that is going to be the make or break of this moving forward. And I hope that we continue to succeed.
Right, absolutely. Yeah.
And bring this opportunity to young people.
Yeah.
And older people, too. There's 85-year-old people who go to that Mass, too.
That enjoy it.
They've been waiting. They said, this one old lady said to me one time, I'm 85 years old, and I've been waiting for a Mass like this for my whole life.
Oh, my goodness.
And I said, oh, my gosh, well, come on back. You know.
And bring some young kids with you.
Bring some of your grandchildren. Yeah.
That's awesome. No,
Thanks.
That's great to hear. You're doing great work there with that Mass.
Love it.
And, of course, other things as well. Now, in regards to the theater.
Yep.
Where'd your passion for that come from?
So when I was a little kid, again, I could look back, my uncle, who I was very, very close with, was a very, very active theater goer. Never really, at that time in his life, had done any shows, but he took me to the opera. He took me to stage productions in our area where I grew up. I remember some of the earliest ones we went to. We saw Cabaret, I remember, at Farrell High School. I went to see Pinocchio, a local production with young kids my age, and I was around 6th grade at that time.
Okay. Well,
I went home from that play and really thought, I can do that, you know. And they brought it. This is a life-changing moment for me. They brought, when I was, again, in 5th and 6th grade, that's a very important time for me in my life, 11 years old, 10 or 11 years old. They brought in a little theater group from, like, the high school or the junior high school. Yeah. And they had us in the round in the gymnasium, and they put on a play in the center of all the 5th and 6th graders called The King's Cream Puffs. Never forgot it. And they only had like a crown and a couple trays of cupcakes or cream puffs, and they had a beanbag chair, and they put this play on for us. And I never thought that a play could be done like that.
Right.
And it's so accessible. I went home that day, and I remember I wrote a play.
Wow.
I did, and I forced my neighborhood kids to be in the play. I made them all be in it, and I wrote another one, and I made them be in that too. And then I joined that theater group of kids down at that Farrell High School. That was the venue that they did it at. And then I was in a couple productions in my 7th and 8th grade years, and then I didn't do it for like over a decade and a half.
Wow.
I did about 5 or 6 plays as a junior high school student, and by the time I got to high school, I had a job, I had a girlfriend. By the time you're a junior, you have a car, and you got to pay your insurance and gas money, and I just didn't have the time. And in college and seminary, you're so busy. But then I got back into it.
Wow.
In 1999, when I had been a priest for about just about 2 years.
Yeah.
I did Jesus Christ Superstar at the Playhouse. And that set me on a new path. And then we founded the OLP Playhouse at Our Lady of Peace. And hundreds of people joined those. For about 15 years, that theater program was going so strong. And it was also during that time that Father Jabo and I had sat down to have a conversation about me coming here as theater director and just to found a program that didn't exist. Nothing was happening.
Yeah.
And campus ministry too. And that was, again, I was able to use 2 things that I'm good at. And again, I've been here. This is my 18th year.
Wow.
So I love it.
Did you have every intention to get back in doing theater, or when '99 when that came up, was it just a happened to be?
It happened to be. My kids at OLP had encouraged me. They knew that I liked to sing, and that they said you should try out for that. It was teenagers got me involved in that.
Wow.
Yeah, teenagers got me involved in that, and I took some of them to the Kentucky mission, and they said we'll go on the Kentucky mission if you make the tech retreat. So I got back from that, and so kids have always played they're inspirational.
Yeah.
Out of the mouth of babes, they say, right? The children, led children, let the children lead you.
Right.
So, yeah.
Wow, how cool. Yeah, and to see
good.
what it's grown into today, and I know you just mentioned that, you had a conversation with Father Jabo. What was it like starting the program here at Prep? Because, there was no theater program at Prep previously.
Right.
And
I had zero money.
And I was going to say,
a budget of zero.
Prep was probably always known at that time even as more of the athletic school.
100%.
So to start that, what was that like for you?
It was a challenge, and it's been a challenge ever since.
Yeah.
I thought that at some point my recruiting would come to an end, and they would just be banging down the door to get in here to join these shows. But it hasn't happened like that. It's an uphill battle for whatever reason always. When I was a kid at my high school, what I loved about my high school was that once your football season was over, it was over.
Yeah.
That's different now. There's lifting all year long, and
Right.
there's camps, and there's, you play these travel soccer, you play travel basketball, you play travel lacrosse, you play travel everything. And so, but back then, after their 10 games and the football season was over, a lot of those athletes would try the arts. They'd be in the choir, they'd be in a musical, they would try different things.
Right.
It's different now. But that's always been my dream, to have that be the experience here at our school.
Yeah.
Because we are a great athletic school. There's no question about it. And I go to as many athletic events as I can. I'm a supporter of that. But I want kids to try everything during their 4 years here. Try a little bit of everything.
Yep.
So, yeah, that would be amazing if that could happen. The first year, I probably had 8 or 9, 10 boys, remember, because we were all boys back then,
Yep.
brave enough to be in Jesus Christ Superstar.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty rockin' musical. So, but I had to bring in adults to play, and nobody wanted the lead roles. Everybody wanted to just be in the background.
To be a part of it, but
it was
not.
so different back then. I'm like the only school that had to beg people to try out for the lead,
Right.
I'm like, what? And I was Judas, and I brought in a guy, a local lawyer was Jesus. My cousin from Gannon was Mary Magdalene. One of the local teachers out, he taught in Iroquois. He was a prep alum. He played Pontius Pilate. I mean, everybody was like from somewhere else. And then our handful of kids, and the girls, of course, back then came from everywhere, which was, a different experience too. I had girls from every single local high school. Imagine, even East and Vincent back then, Harbor Creek, Iroquois, of course, McDowell. We had girls from Villa. We had girls from Mercyhurst and Collegiate. And that was cool, too, back then. That is cool. In those days, it was different.
Yeah.
And they loved coming and being part of it with our prep guys back in those days.
Yeah.
But, then it got easier, because I picked shows that kids like to be in. West Side Story, the big musicals that no other high schools around here do. We do.
Right.
Like Tarzan. Nobody did Tarzan except for us.
Yeah.
Flying kids. $15,000 worth of flying kids through the audience, but it was worth it.
You got some money after the first couple years. You got to go.
I got some money. Yes. Trying to build that back up again after the pandemic, because our audiences have been very small lately.
Sure.
So,
well, and I think you were talking also about just kids having different experiences, and high school is such a short time in the span of your life, those 4 years, and you have the opportunity in front of you to try different things and programs and experience that. And if you don't like it, you don't like it, but you don't know unless you try.
Right.
Yeah.
So this year, I have to say, I have a whole lot of freshmen involved, and last year a lot of freshmen involved too. So my program right now has a lot of depth.
Yeah.
So knock on wood, I'm really excited about where this is
exciting.
going.
Yeah.
So I think we're in a good place, and we have this show coming up. I'm sure we'll get to that.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And just talking about you've been on the prep side of things. You were also teaching on the Villa side of things. Like you said, you've been doing the program for both schools. What are some of your best memories over the years?
In the theater?
Almost 20 years as a whole. Whether it's,
as a whole?
Yeah, being involved with the organization.
I would say early on, I was in charge of the P-flop also, if you remember that.
Yeah, I do.
Those boys and I got really, really close. They were a lot of fun. And then putting that together and putting videos together using my orange Jeep back in those days.
Yeah, I remember it.
And cast parties, I think, were fun. I used to cook I cooked for various teams. I remember the cross-country team came over with their coaches. Coach Moffat was the coach back then. And I cooked a giant pasta dinner for them the night before one of their big Browns Farm, meets, invitationals and things. The whole team and all the coaches. Those were really fun times. I would say, of course, Sports Day at Villa was the greatest day of the year. Yeah. Truly it was. Those were good. The theatrical productions with Colleen Maxon and Chris Peck, like two of my close friends, also on stage with me.
That makes
we were all in West Side Story together. We were all shook up together.
Yeah.
Being on stage with the kids, which doesn't happen for me too often, except once in a while, which is so the best thing ever. Just to be up there literally acting with them on the stage. usually I'm up there and playing an older person, obviously now at this point, or an old guy in one of the Shakespeare plays, Doc, the old guy in West Side Story, to make it more. I remember we made commercials. We used to make commercials for our shows that would go on TV. We would buy, 150 spots on the news and different places.
Yeah.
It was incredible what we used to do.
How cool.
And it was good.
Yeah.
So some of those are probably my best. Like Tarzan, Flying the Kids.
Right.
And I remember Beauty and the Beast the one year. We had, I think on Saturday night, a flawless production. Nothing was wrong at all. Every single cue was right, every light, there wasn't a microphone that made a pop. There was nothing wrong.
Right.
And I remember the stage crew all jumped up onto me, up in the upstairs. They jumped onto me and just literally into my arms and said that was perfect. And I said, that was the perfect show.
Wow.
Yeah, so stuff like that.
Yeah, because all those hours of practicing and rehearsing and getting those perfect cues and notes down, I mean, it takes a lot.
Yeah, we did a senior class play the one year in 2010, which a group that I'm still really close friends with to this day. There was also their retreat that year. That was my last year as campus minister for a while because I went to Mount Calvary to be the pastor out there for 5.5 years. But the retreat was all about male spirituality and the archetypes of male spirituality. And it answered the question for these boys, why are we drawn outward rather than inward? Because that's your makeup. And so what we did was, for the last 45 minutes of the day after lunch and mass and all the other morning stuff was done, they played Capture the Flag, the whole senior class. So 100 and some kids running all over on two gigantic teams out of Camp Notre Dame to try and capture each other's flags, which the captains of those teams had hidden the night before.
Okay.
But it allowed them to put what we talked about at the retreat actually into practice and let them do what spiritually comes from inside of them, which is to run and hunt and compete. That's male spirituality.
Yeah.
Males are drawn outward. Women often may be drawn toward the table. Men eat and run. It's just funny. So that was one of the highlights. I know, right? So that's one of the highlights of the retreats and things like that I was able to do. I can't leave out 2 missionary trips to India with our students, 2 missionary trips to Africa with our students. Going halfway around the world with students is an incredibly scary thing,
right?
But it's so incredible, the friendships that they made over there that they still have.
Yes.
And of course, Kentucky, I've been going since 1989.
Wow.
So, and I've been running it since shortly after that. I was 19 when I went, almost 20, and I'll be 54 this summer. So, I mean, all those years. So 34 years. I've done that longer than I've done anything else in my life, is that mission.
Right.
Which has happened every year except for the pandemic year.
Right.
So, and we're going this year.
Yeah, and to talk about the experience that those kids have in their learning service and how to do things to benefit other people. And I can only imagine the difference those kids have on their perspective of life after they're in places like India or Africa and Kentucky, these mission trips, and they come back and they realize how fortunate they are for where they're at.
They come back and they have a clear understanding of what they want to do with their lives, like go into the medical profession or go into pharmacy to try and help kids who are sick in other parts of the world, Yeah, it's pretty good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And there might be some overlap with this next question I had for you, but in terms of the roles you serve in the school today now, what brings you the most joy in your work that you're doing now for the school? And it might have some overlap with what you were talking about.
Sure. I mean, okay, so the plays and the musicals feed my spirit as an artist, as an artistic person, who lives on that side of the brain most of the time, right?
Right.
That feeds my spirit. That's my soul on that stage. My heart is in the classroom because I'm teaching the scriptures. I'm teaching about Jesus. I'm teaching the Bible, which I just did a Lenten series at St. Patrick's over the last 5 Wednesdays, and it was connecting all of the dots of the Old Testament. Because as Catholics, a lot of Catholics were never taught the Bible, and so they don't even know the stories that I take for granted because I've been teaching this for so long. But I love the classroom. I love when they go, "Oh, I never realized that," or you hear them go, "Like I didn't connect that." Oh yeah, yeah. So I think the classroom is. I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
I teach from the pulpit on Sundays and through the week, and I teach in the classroom. That's probably that's why I get here an hour before school starts every day, because I want to get situated and ready to go and make sure that I have everything ready for them, because that's the most exciting thing in the world for me.
And it sounds like those kids are engaged in your class.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're excited to learn.
Some more than others, but you have to also remember, a lot of these kids do not have any background at all. Some went to 8 or 9 years of Catholic school, kindergarten through 8th grade, or to another school where the Bible was taught or celebrated, and some of them have never been to church. And they come here and they don't even, you can't even take for granted that they know who Mary and Joseph are.
Right.
Like you have to assume that somebody might not know what you and I have known since we were 3 years old.
Right. So somebody listening to the podcast now, just a question that came on me as we're talking. Let's say they've never read the Bible. They're listening now. They hear you talking about it. They kind of sound excited. Where would you recommend somebody get started in doing that?
Well,
it's a big book,
It sure is. I have an incredible textbook that I use called Understanding the Bible, and it's written by Reverend Dr. Scott Hahn, who's one of the premier biblical scholars of our day, a convert to Catholicism from Protestantism, incidentally.
Yeah.
And he makes it so understandable. And not everyone can get a hold of that book, but you could probably get a hold of that book. But you could start at the beginning and read through the first 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I would say you could read up through maybe Chronicles, and then read all the little historical books of the Bible, and then I would say skip the prophets, because there's a lot in there, and you kind of have to know what they were dealing with and where their messages are coming from. You need to put that into a historical perspective.
Sure.
But then the Gospels, of course. I remember the first book of the Bible that I ever read, my mom made me read it when I was sick one day. Sick with quotation marks, because I was sick, but probably not too sick.
Yeah. And
I stayed home from school, but I had to stay in bed, and I was bored, and she said, no television, but here, I read Mark's Gospel. Like, I was probably 12 or 13, and I read Mark's Gospel.
Yeah.
And then I read the book of Revelation when I was about 18, because it just was interesting to me.
A lot to unpack there.
Yeah. And so, but I say, pick up Luke's Gospel and read it, or Matthew's Gospel and read it. And then once you're a little more savvy, then John. But the Acts of the Apostles, also written by St. Luke. You could read Luke and then the Acts of the Apostles in a row.
Right.
And that connects the life of Jesus with the life of the early church and the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And they both read like a book.
Right.
So it's a story.
Yes.
One of the kids in my first period earlier this year said, I love this class. I love starting my day in this class because it's like stories. It's just awesome stories from the Bible.
Right.
It's like story time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And it's our story.
Yes.
So,
yeah,
it's
cool.
cool.
Funny because the simplest, it is. That's
our
exactly
story.
what it is.
Yeah. Philippians, if you're going to read a book of St. Paul, Philippians is short and has a bunch of things, like one-liners that you could think about for the whole day.
Yep.
Like our citizenship is in heaven.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Right.
This is all passing away. We're going to be here for this long. We're going to be there for eternity.
Yep.
You know.
And I think out of everything Father Mike was saying here, pick somewhere and start. The most important thing is that you do it. Yeah.
I think you're absolutely.
So big question, at this school year is, between the merger, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's asking, everyone's curious, how's it been going between the girls now over here with the new way that prep is. You have the ability that you've seen Villa on one side, you've seen prep here. What's your take on how this school year has been going?
Well, first of all, I was looking forward to this ever since it was announced, because I went to a public school, so there were girls all the time,
right,
and boys all the time. Even in gym classes and health classes, sometimes we were together. I remember, depending on what we were doing, we'd play volleyball together and we'd run together and so it was, I loved being at Villa, and I loved, of course, being here at Prep. But and again, my theater program has always been co-ed.
Right.
Always. So I've always had the boys and the girls together. So I've seen this already for 18 years under this roof. The girls would show up after school for rehearsal. And I knew they're all friends.
Yeah.
And so I think it couldn't be going any better than it is. I love it. Yeah. And I love being in the new Student Life Center as often as I can. And kids come right up, sit with you, talk to you.
Yeah.
There's the interaction that I've seen, not just between the boys and the girls, but kids of different grade levels, and also between the students and the adults in the building. There's a difference that's happened this year. There's a friendliness that I just feel is different than it ever has been before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say there's that common bond experience where everybody went through a change with this. I mean, yes, the girls came from one building into another, but the boys have a big change as well with the girls being here. Yes. The faculty, the staff, everybody went through that change. And the Student Life Center, as you mentioned, really brought everyone together into one common space, be able to share together. So, it's been great to see. Yeah, it's been fun.
The girls have really been taking a lot of the leadership roles over here too, which people were not sure how that was going to work. And I said, I think the girls are going to definitely, they're going to take over a little bit. I'm just saying, the guys better not think that they have some sort of home field advantage, because day one, it was pretty obvious that nobody did, because we were all lost.
Right.
Going through the school, everything was different. Yeah. Everything was moved around. Stairwells that used to be there weren't there anymore.
Yeah.
And hallways that weren't there, that were there weren't there anymore.
Well, it's funny. I had Veronica Seep on back in January on the podcast, and she described the end of the year going to be like a big celebration in that, look what we accomplished, look what we did. I think that's a great way to look at how this school year is going to end up.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to serve on a committee with several alums, several administrators, a teacher or two, and a couple, 3 or 4 students, a couple boys and a couple girls, to talk about the traditions and to talk about their concerns about the merger and what the things that were so special to them that they really wanted to safeguard. And it was great to be part of that group, to see. And that even made me, coming out of those meetings, made me even more sure that this was going to be fine.
Yeah.
That we're going to safeguard the things that really matter to everybody, and then create some new things too.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. No, it's been exciting. It's great to see and to know that behind the scenes there was people planning and talking about those things to keep those going on for traditions and whatnot. Yeah. I was going to ask you too, the Mission Club. Yeah. You know, how'd you end up getting involved with that and starting it? And who serves in it? So
several years ago, again, the pandemic. Prior to that, Chris Peck and I, because Chris had gone to Kentucky with me probably 15 years in a row or so, the two of us started the Mission Club to raise money and awareness and excitement among the students. And so we met just a couple times, and then everything stopped, unfortunately. And then the last 3 years, I haven't been able to go on any foreign missions. We couldn't even go to Kentucky the one year, 2020. Yeah. But we have gone back there twice. We're going again this summer. But I'd like to keep really dreaming about those foreign missions. There's a possibility that I and several of the students may go to the Dominican Republic this summer.
Wow.
Yes. To again, get the ball rolling. It's baby steps again. It's like restart everything. When we went into the pandemic, I had 100 people ready to do Jesus Christ Superstar in 2 weeks that got canceled. 100 people in that cast.
Yeah.
We just did it last year, 50. Okay? So you can see, even then, 2 years go by and it's still only half. The first year back, we were the only school anywhere in the world that did theater. We did 4 productions during the pandemic year of remote learning.
Yeah.
But I had to pick small shows.
Right.
Because the kids were either at home all the time or coming in every other day. Just had to be very creative with things. That's another proud thing of ours that mine, I should say, that we were able to do a concert for our seniors that summer because they never got their final bow. And we did 2 plays and 2 musicals that year when nobody else did theater anywhere.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Right.
Not on any level. Broadway was closed. Erie Playhouse was closed. College wasn't doing anything. Grade schools were doing nothing, and neither were the high schools. We did 4 shows.
Wow.
Yep. And people said, "How did you do it?" I said, "We just did it." we had to be very creative, but we did it. But anyway, so the Mission Club, we're hoping. And I've gotten usually around 30 kids per meeting.
Okay.
We've met 3 or 4 times. We discerned where our hearts are, and we talked about that. We compiled all of the data from their surveys that we gave to the kids, and many of them are interested in healthcare kind of mission work, which the Dominican Republic actually has a facet of that. That might be why we go there. There's also a possibility of going to Guatemala to an eye clinic.
Oh, cool.
But no matter where we go, like India, we go to a nursing college always because I'm friends with the people who run it, stuff like that. We work with orphans in Africa who have HIV. They were born with, HIV because of their parents having AIDS. So we work with them. It's all safely, of course, but we, So we have to we're trying to create it so the way we want to design it for them, so to help them in moving forward in their lives.
Well, and I think it's great too that it's encouraging that despite the pandemic taking your theater program away, Mission Club, all these things, you still got that passion and spirit to let's get it going again.
You got to push the reset button.
Yeah,
is what I said. You got to build up again. It's just it crumbled. It crumbled us. It really did. The whole world. It stopped everything. And rebuilding is not easy.
So you mentioned a lot of different experiences, things you're proud of. Anything that we haven't covered in terms of what you are the most proud of?
So I just started a new chapter of my life as the pastor of St. Patrick's Church. And it's a bigger job than I thought it was going to be because Father Kriegel made it look pretty easy, I guess. He also was very near to retirement, had streamlined a lot of it, a lot of the things, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
So it's manageable, certainly. We don't have a school, of course. We don't have a religious education program or youth groups or things like that. But kind of looking to the future, we'll see what obviously, we're not going to have a school or but we are bringing things back. And again, the pandemic, that's all part of that.
Yeah.
We're bringing back all of our Holy Week activities. We're bringing back, I brought this Lenten series. We are trying to get kind of back where we would have been before.
Yeah.
Where the life of that parish was. And I've already had dozens of families join within the last several months, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
I have a baptism almost every Sunday,
Wow.
which is unheard of right now anywhere.
Right.
And I mean, I have 3 coming up in one day.
Yeah.
And so families are joining, people are coming back to church. So I'm excited about that, and I haven't done long enough that I can say it's one of my proudest accomplishments. But I mean, I'm happy that the bishop has entrusted me with that, and I'm just, as long as I can juggle all the different things that I'm doing, I'd like to just stay where I'm at, stay doing what I do.
And that's the exact word I was thinking in my head was juggle, because
But my friends always say if I don't have 9 things in the air that I'm juggling, that there's something wrong.
Right, yeah.
So 9 is a lot. That's an exaggeration.
Right, yes.
But I like to have 2 or 3 things going around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
and you do good with what you're doing. So
thanks.
So last question for you. Any upcoming shows you would like to share us about, and information on?
Yes. So this year we decided to do 2 musicals and a play. So we usually do more than this, but with this year being such a question mark, and with the construction, still kind of overlapping with the beginning of the year,
right?
we decided to do 2 musicals and a play. We usually do, as like I said, more. I did 5 or 6 before in one school year years ago. Yeah, years ago. But we did Into the Woods in the fall. We just did our most recent play that was Midsummer Night's Dream back at the end in the winter, and we're doing Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat by Andrew Lloyd Webber, April 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th.
Awesome.
So 7 p.m. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 2 p.m. Sunday. Final musical of the year.
Wow.
Very exciting. Everybody loves it. Bible story. Not a bad song in it. It's all music, like Jesus Christ Superstar. It's
cool.
one song after the next.
Yeah.
And so we have several rehearsals this week, and then we're off for the Triduum and all next week. So then we come back and we have a week and a half and we open.
Right. Yes. And this episode of the podcast will be coming out, I think it's April 17th. So
Beautiful.
We'll be, right before, this is leading right up to that.
Yeah, we're trying to get all the word out on all of our social media and things like that. So a cast of we have a children's chorus. So we have a cast and crew of over 60 people. So that's a nice number. We're growing still, little by little, we're growing.
Hey, it takes a little bit at a time.
Those little grade school kids hopefully are going to find a home on our stage and want to come here.
Yes, absolutely.
There's that excitement too.
Yeah, awesome.
Yep.
Well, appreciate you sharing that with
Thanks.
us, and all the fun stories we're able to look back at, through your time, serving
never boring.
the church, serving prep and villa and everything. Definitely not boring.
Thanks.
But no, we appreciate all you do for the school.
I love it here.
Making a great impact on the kids and the community.
It's my favorite
as a whole.
place to be. I come here on the weekends sometimes. I sweep the stage and I mop the stage floor just because I like being under this roof.
That's good stuff.
Thanks.